There is also a productivity multiplier at work. Focused attention increases depth of work. Deep work accelerates mastery. Mastery enhances output quality. Higher quality output strengthens professional reputation and competitive positioning. Each step originates from disciplined attention management. Without structured allocation, even the most talented individuals operate below capacity. Priming effectively acts as a pre-market briefing for the mind. It establishes priorities before competing demands arise. It strengthens resistance to distraction and reinforces goal alignment. When attention is intentionally invested in high-value objectives, the marginal productivity of each hour increases. The same time produces greater results. In an economy where information overload is constant, the ability to control attention becomes a defining competitive advantage. What separates those who collapse under pressure from those who expand in it? In economics and finance, volatility is inevitable. Markets fluctuate. Uncertainty persists. And risk is embedded in every strategic decision. The same principle applies to professional and personal life. No career path, investment strategy, or leadership role is free from unpredictability. The defining variable is not the presence of risk, but the ability to manage it. Priming strengthens emotional regulation, transforming uncertainty from a destabilizing force into a manageable variable. What if the difference between average output and exceptional performance is not the number of hours you work, but the state in which you work? In economics, productivity measures the efficiency with which inputs are transformed into outputs. The objective is not merely to increase effort, but to maximize results from a given level of resources. Time and energy are finite inputs. Priming enhances the quality of these inputs, thereby increasing marginal productivity, the additional output generated from each additional unit of effort. Many professionals attempt to improve performance by extending working hours, yet extended hours under fatigue, distraction, or emotional strain often produce diminishing returns. Cognitive resources deplete, focus deteriorates, and errors multiply. This is a classic example of inefficient input utilization. Priming addresses this inefficiency at its source by optimizing physiological and psychological conditions. Before performance begins, through controlled breathing, the body receives increased oxygenation, stimulating alertness and mental clarity. Through gratitude and visualization, cognitive orientation shifts toward possibility and purposeful action. The result is elevated energy aligned with strategic objectives. Imagine beginning your day not in a reactive state, but in a peak state. Decisions are sharper, communication is clearer, complex problems are approached with structured thinking rather than frustration. The same task that once required 2 hours of scattered effort may now be completed in 1 hour of concentrated execution. This is productivity optimization in practical terms. The total input remains constant, yet output increases because the efficiency of cognitive processing has improved. Ask yourself this: how many opportunities have been lost, not because of inadequate knowledge, but because of emotional reaction? How many decisions were delayed, avoided, or distorted by fear of failure? The inability to regulate emotional responses amplifies perceived risk beyond objective reality. Priming reduces this amplification effect by training the mind daily to operate from gratitude and intentional focus. Individuals develop resilience against exaggerated threat perception. Risk management also involves recovery speed. Even with preparation, setbacks occur, markets decline, projects fail, partnerships dissolve. The difference between temporary disruption and long-term decline lies in adaptive response. Individuals who practice priming build psychological elasticity. Their baseline emotional state is elevated, enabling quicker recalibration after disappointment. Instead of dwelling on loss, they analyze data, extract lessons, and redeploy effort. This accelerates strategic recovery and preserves momentum. There is also a reputational dimension to emotional stability. Organizations and teams gravitate toward leaders who demonstrate composure during turbulence. Stability fosters trust. Trust enhances collaboration. Collaboration increases collective productivity. Thus, emotional regulation generates both direct and indirect economic benefits. Priming does not eliminate risk, it strengthens the capacity to navigate it by conditioning physiological calmness and reinforcing constructive cognitive framing. Individuals reduce impulsive reactions and enhance analytical reasoning. In uncertain environments where volatility cannot be controlled, internal stability becomes the most reliable form of security. Risk management begins with rational assessment. However, rationality deteriorates when emotional responses dominate cognitive processing. Stress narrows perception. Fear exaggerates threats. Anger distorts judgment. Behavioral economics consistently demonstrates that individuals under emotional strain are more prone to loss aversion, impulsive decision-making, and short-term bias. These distortions lead to conservative overcorrections or reckless reactions, both of which undermine long-term performance. The economic cost of emotional instability is not theoretical. It appears in missed opportunities, flawed negotiations, and miscalculated investments. Priming acts as a stabilizing mechanism before exposure to volatility occurs. Through deliberate breathing patterns, physiological arousal is regulated. Lower stress hormones increase clarity and restore executive functioning. Gratitude practices broaden cognitive perspective, counteracting the tunnel vision that accompanies anxiety. Visualization prepares the brain for potential challenges, reducing shock when difficulties arise. This proactive conditioning strengthens emotional equilibrium before risk materializes. Consider high-stakes environments, such as executive negotiations, financial trading floors, or entrepreneurial decision-making under uncertainty. In these contexts, composure directly influences outcome quality. A leader who remains calm during market downturns signals stability to stakeholders. An investor who resists panic selling preserves long-term gains. A negotiator who maintains emotional control retains leverage. Emotional stability becomes an economic asset, enhancing credibility and strategic flexibility. There is also a productivity multiplier at work. Focused attention increases depth of work. Deep work accelerates mastery. Mastery enhances output quality. Higher quality output strengthens professional reputation and competitive positioning. Each step originates from disciplined attention management. Without structured allocation, even the most talented individuals operate below capacity. Priming effectively acts as a pre-market briefing for the mind. It establishes priorities before competing demands arise. It strengthens resistance to distraction and reinforces goal alignment. When attention is intentionally invested in high-value objectives, the marginal productivity of each hour increases. The same time produces greater results. In an economy where information overload is constant, the ability to control attention becomes a defining competitive advantage. What separates those who collapse under pressure from those who expand in it? In economics and finance, volatility is inevitable. Markets fluctuate. Uncertainty persists. And risk is embedded in every strategic decision. The same principle applies to professional and personal life. No career path, investment strategy, or leadership role is free from unpredictability. The defining variable is not the presence of risk, but the ability to manage it. Priming strengthens emotional regulation, transforming uncertainty from a destabilizing force into a manageable variable. Priming interrupts this cycle. Through structured breathing and gratitude exercises, it stabilizes the nervous system and increases cognitive clarity. Through visualization, it directs mental energy toward defined objectives. Instead of scattering attention randomly, you channel it intentionally. This is strategic resource allocation at the psychological level. When you decide in advance what deserves your focus, you protect your cognitive capital from depletion. Ask yourself, how much revenue, influence, or opportunity is lost when your focus drifts? A single distracted meeting can weaken negotiation leverage. A moment of emotional reactivity can damage a professional relationship. A lapse in concentration can delay a critical decision. These are not minor inconveniences. They are economic inefficiencies rooted in unmanaged attention. Effective leaders understand that attention determines perception, and perception shapes action. When priming trains the mind to focus on gratitude and opportunity, it shifts interpretive frameworks. Challenges are processed as solvable problems rather than insurmountable threats. This reframing conserves mental energy. Instead of expending cognitive effort on worry or frustration, individuals allocate it toward analysis and solution generation. The result is higher quality decision-making under pressure. Now imagine the opposite effect. Small daily neglect compounds as well. A reactive morning leads to scattered focus. Scattered focus reduces task efficiency. Reduced efficiency increases stress. Increased stress further impairs decision-making. Over time, this negative compounding erodes confidence and performance. The difference between these two trajectories may appear insignificant on a single day, but across months and years, the divergence becomes dramatic. One path builds momentum, the other dissipates it. Priming also compounds emotionally. Gratitude, when practiced consistently, shifts perception toward opportunity rather than threat. A mind trained to identify progress becomes more solution-oriented. This increases initiative and calculated risk-taking, both of which are critical in competitive markets. Success experiences then reinforce belief, and belief strengthens action. Each successful action further validates the mindset that produced it. This positive feedback loop accelerates growth in professional and personal domains. There's an additional strategic advantage. Compounding strengthens resilience during volatility. When external conditions become unstable, economic downturns, market disruptions, organizational changes, individuals with a history of daily psychological conditioning maintain composure more effectively. Their emotional baseline has been elevated through repetition. Because their internal systems have been trained, consistently, they recover faster from setbacks and adapt more quickly to change. The compounded investment in mental discipline acts as a buffer against external shocks. What if I told you that 10 minutes a day could create exponential returns in your performance, your confidence, and your income? In finance, we understand the extraordinary force of compounding. A small, consistent investment, when given time, multiplies beyond expectation. The principle is simple. Growth builds upon growth. Yet while individuals readily apply compounding to money, few apply it to behavior. Priming operates on the same economic logic. It is a small daily deposit into your psychological capital that generates expanding returns over time. In behavioral economics, repeated actions shape cognitive patterns. Neural pathways strengthen with use, much like financial assets appreciate with reinvestment. When you practice intentional breathing, gratitude, and outcome visualization every day, you are not merely experiencing a temporary boost in mood. You are reinforcing neural circuits associated with focus, resilience, and optimism. Over weeks and months, these reinforced pathways become dominant patterns of thinking. What begins as a deliberate exercise transforms into an automatic advantage. Consider the mathematics of incremental improvement. If performance improves by even 1% each day through enhanced clarity and emotional regulation, the cumulative effect across a year becomes substantial. This is not theoretical motivation. It is measurable behavioral reinforcement. Daily priming reduces stress reactivity, which preserves cognitive energy. Preserved cognitive energy enhances decision quality. Improved decisions increase productivity and strategic alignment. Each improvement feeds the next, creating a self-reinforcing cycle of growth. Ask yourself this: how many opportunities have been lost, not because of inadequate knowledge, but because of emotional reaction? How many decisions were delayed, avoided, or distorted by fear of failure? The inability to regulate emotional responses amplifies perceived risk beyond objective reality. Priming reduces this amplification effect by training the mind daily to operate from gratitude and intentional focus. Individuals develop resilience against exaggerated threat perception. Risk management also involves recovery speed. Even with preparation, setbacks occur, markets decline, projects fail, partnerships dissolve. The difference between temporary disruption and long-term decline lies in adaptive response. Individuals who practice priming build psychological elasticity. Their baseline emotional state is elevated, enabling quicker recalibration after disappointment. Instead of dwelling on loss, they analyze data, extract lessons, and redeploy effort. This accelerates strategic recovery and preserves momentum. There is also a reputational dimension to emotional stability. Organizations and teams gravitate toward leaders who demonstrate composure during turbulence. Stability fosters trust. Trust enhances collaboration. Collaboration increases collective productivity. Thus, emotional regulation generates both direct and indirect economic benefits. Priming does not eliminate risk. It strengthens the capacity to navigate it by conditioning physiological calmness and reinforcing constructive cognitive framing. Individuals reduce impulsive reactions and enhance analytical reasoning. In uncertain environments, where volatility cannot be controlled, internal stability becomes the most reliable form of security. Consider the first 15 minutes of a typical morning. Notifications, emails, news alerts, social media updates, each one competing for attention. Attention, in economic terms, is a scarce resource. It cannot be expanded beyond 24 hours in a day. When this limited cognitive resource is immediately allocated to external stimuli, it is diverted away from strategic intention. The opportunity cost is clarity, focus, and proactive thinking. Instead of entering the day with a defined objective, individuals begin in response mode, reacting to the priorities of others rather than advancing their own. This reactive pattern generates measurable economic consequences. Decision fatigue increases when the brain is overwhelmed with unstructured input. Emotional volatility rises when negative information dominates early cognitive exposure. Productivity declines when focus becomes fragmented. The cost may not appear immediately on a balance sheet, but it manifests in missed opportunities, delayed execution, strained professional relationships, and reduced creative output. Over time, these small daily inefficiencies compound into significant performance gaps. Now imagine the alternative. By investing 10 intentional minutes in priming, controlled breathing, gratitude conditioning, and strategic visualization, you are consciously allocating your mental resources before the market demands them. You are deciding where your focus will go rather than allowing it to be extracted. This reduces the opportunity cost associated with distraction and emotional instability. Instead of sacrificing clarity, you strengthen it. Instead of forfeiting momentum, you create it. Furthermore, investment in human capital increases adaptability, a critical factor in dynamic economies. Technological disruption, competitive markets, and shifting consumer behavior demand flexibility and creative problem solving. Priming enhances mental agility by fostering a growth-oriented mindset and reinforcing positive expectation patterns. When the brain is trained daily to anticipate success and opportunity, it becomes more likely to identify them in real time. The marketplace rewards those who can sustain high performance under uncertainty. Financial capital can be lost, external conditions can shift, but strengthened human capital, sharpened focus, emotional intelligence, and strategic thinking compounds in value. Priming is not merely a motivational ritual. It is a disciplined economic strategy for enhancing the most influential determinant of long-term productivity, the quality of the human mind. Every single morning, before you speak to anyone, before you check your phone, before you step into the marketplace, you make a decision that shapes your entire day. And most people don't even realize they're making it. Will you control your mental state, or will you surrender it to external forces? In economics, the concept of opportunity cost refers to the value of the next best alternative that is sacrificed when a choice is made. When you choose not to prime your mind, you are not choosing neutrality. You are choosing a reactive state. And the hidden cost of that decision is far greater than most people calculate. From an economic standpoint, this is strategic capital enhancement. Just as firms allocate resources toward employee training to increase output, individuals can allocate time toward mental conditioning to increase personal returns. The cost is minimal, 10 minutes, yet the return on investment is substantial. Improved focus reduces errors. Emotional regulation minimizes costly, impulsive decisions. Clear visualization strengthens goal alignment and execution. Over time, these incremental gains translate into higher quality work, stronger leadership capacity, and improved professional outcomes. There is also a multiplier effect at play. Human capital does not operate in isolation. It influences social capital and organizational performance. A psychologically primed individual communicates more effectively, collaborates more efficiently, and leads with greater confidence. This creates positive spillover effects within teams and institutions. In economic terms, priming generates externalities that benefit not only the individual, but also the broader system in which they operate. Ask yourself, how often do market fluctuations, workplace pressures, or unexpected challenges dictate your emotional state? When external volatility controls internal stability, productivity becomes inconsistent. Priming functions as a stabilizing mechanism. By conditioning the nervous system through deliberate breathing and gratitude practices, individuals reduce stress-induced cognitive impairment. This protects their most valuable asset, rational decision-making capacity, even in high-pressure environments. Ladies and gentlemen, what if I told you that the quality of your life is not determined by your circumstances, but by your state? What if I told you that in just 10 minutes a day, you could rewire your brain, shift your emotions, and take control of your destiny? Today, I'm going to talk to you about priming, the daily habit that has transformed millions of lives and is a cornerstone of peak performance. What if the greatest investment you could ever make required no money, no market access, no external approval, only 10 minutes of disciplined focus each morning? In economics, we define human capital as the stock of skills, knowledge, experience, and health that individuals possess, which directly influences their productivity and earning potential. Yet most people invest heavily in financial capital, while neglecting the very asset that determines how effectively they use it, their mind. Priming represents a deliberate, structured investment in human capital designed to enhance cognitive performance, emotional resilience, and decision-making capacity before the demands of the market begin. Consider this. Two individuals may possess the same education, the same professional experience, and the same opportunities. However, the one who consistently conditions their psychological and physiological state will outperform the other. Why? Because productivity is not determined solely by technical skill. It is profoundly shaped by mental clarity, emotional stability, and focus. Priming strengthens these internal assets through intentional breathing, gratitude conditioning, and outcome visualization. The brain is trained to operate in an optimal performance state. This daily conditioning increases neural efficiency, sharpens attention, and enhances executive functioning, all of which directly raise individual productivity levels.